and sing the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're always much better in sync when we're in person, of course. Our next item up is citizen speak. As per our rules, we allow 3 minutes per speaker. We ask that you identify yourself and give your address. We allow also a total of 21 minutes of time for citizen speak. I will take care of the 3 minutes and we'll give you a 30-second warning. Mr. Milano can keep us on track for 21 minutes. We are online only, obviously, and so if you are here in the Zoom room and you wish to join Citizen Speak, you can raise your hand and you'll be promoted to a panelist. All right, no takers. Okay, well then let's go to item number 4, which is the naming dedication of the old fire headquarters building and meeting room. We've had some developments in this. I know that there was a proposal that was made up earlier. Mr. Milano, do you want to give us a quick overview of where we are in this process? And I know we have, I see Libby and Rich, I think both here online.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board members will have received an email from Ms. Dunphy regarding essentially naming the meeting room in the old fire headquarters at 515 Kent Ave behind Town Hall. After her mother, I'll let her and or Rick speak to that request. That I just did want to share, and I shared it with them as well, as that Chief Madden has also just flag this as something that the fire department has talked about internally, as well as thinking in appropriate naming, because of the structure's obvious many years of history as a fire building. We do have the building to think about for a name, as well as the meeting room on the first floor, and then there are other naming opportunities within the fire headquarters itself. So I do think there are a few opportunities here, and so we should, as a board and a town, start having a conversation about how we're going to approach those. So I think that's an overview of where we're at. Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. I know, could you promote Ms. Dunphy and Mr. Neely when you have a chance as well, so that we could hear a bit from them? Good evening, Ms. Dunphy and Mr. Neely. You're on Zoom with the select board. We received a very warm letter recommending a name for the new room, the new meeting room in a new old fire station headquarters, new room in the old building. Ms. Dunphy, would you like to say a few words first, or Mr. Neely?
Well, I'm happy to speak. Unless Libby would like to speak first. And that's just a question, technical question. Video, do you want me to show the video, or just tell me?
You can turn your video on for sure.
Yeah, okay, if I had done that, okay. All right, well, listen, whether it shows up or not, I will go ahead and speak. There we go.
There you are.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, it's nice to be back at a select board meeting. I'm happy to be speaking tonight in support of naming the conference room in the old fire headquarters in Montreux, the first woman to serve as a member and chair of the select board, Kathy Dunn. Kathy, I first met when she served on my warrant committee when I was the chairman, and she served 2 valuable years on the committee at a very difficult time when we lost state aid in the amount of almost 50%. Town went through a very tough time. She succeeded me as the chairperson, and she endured the recession of 1990-91, and she was the chair for 2 years. She was the second chair after Dr. Ann Coughlin, but she was an excellent leader of the warrant committee in a very difficult period. She was so successful that she followed that by getting elected to the board of selectmen, as it was known in those days, in 1993. And she served 6 years, of which at least 3 of those years was as the first chairperson as a woman. She was an excellent leader. She, by the way, also was a longtime town meeting member. So she was a town meeting member all throughout the 90s and 2000, well into
almost in 2015, 2016, I believe. So just a couple of things to point out for her. She also served Milton on the MWRA advisory board. And that advisory board service went for some 22 years. And the advisory board, as you may know, is composed of the cities and towns that enjoy the benefit of the MWRA. She served as the chairperson of the MWRA advisory board from some 14 years, from 2001 to 2015. She did a great job representing Milton as a constituent town, and she did a great job leading the MWRA advisory board. So as a member and chair of the board of selectmen, she really led the effort on improving the infrastructure of the town. And I'm sure you find this and you have comments on who was before you as a select person, but I will tell you that in our time period, we discovered, I'll give you an example. The water and sewer on my street was installed in 1895. We discovered as we had started having problems that there was substantial work required to improve inflow and infiltration. Now, there are some town reports that talk about that beginning in 2005. Well, I can read to you from our reports in 1995, 96 that Kathy led the way in getting us to address those problems on inflow and infiltration, starting with engineering studies, followed by actual construction work. She also secured $1,600,000 in funding from the MWRA to address substantial problems throughout many neighborhoods, several neighborhoods, I wouldn't say many, but 5 or 6 neighborhoods in Milton that had problems with sewage connecting to the MWRA system, which, as you know, goes right through Milton down Brook Road. So she was able to secure that grant, and she also really led the efforts on trying to get additional investment in water infrastructure. As you know, there are water breaks that occur, but some of those water breaks are really the result of pipes having not been replaced. And so there was a substantial pipe replacement program that began in the mid to late 90s. So that was an important piece. Also, she's very instrumental in supporting and capping and closing the landfill. You may recall that the town was under an administrative consent order, and the town was able to get together with the city of Quincy and Granite Links and have materials from the Big Dig brought in through Quincy and not down Randolph Avenue. And we're able to save some $13 million in debt service, as well as obviously you're receiving revenues today from that golf course. So that's a couple of key pieces in terms of the leadership. Some of the other problems that she worked on and addressed was 2 Granite Avenue. 2 Granite Avenue was a hazard. It was actually controlled by the Resolution Trust Company at that point. Nothing was happening. And we were able to get that back on the commercial tax base and get that resolved with the assistance of our Conservation Commission as well. And probably in terms of school construction, as she was finishing up her terms, she was a supporter for getting the schools in terms of being rebuilt or actually new construction. So there were 6 schools constructed at the beginning of the 2000s, and she finished up in 1999. Those efforts were beginning with committee meetings and presentations by the school building committee. So overall, I would also add, by the way, her contribution to the town wasn't just in meetings. It was assisting throughout the town. 40 hours a week is what I would estimate. I certainly wasn't able to commit 40 hours a week, but she committed and spent a lot of time in the meeting rooms. And we're talking about naming one. Although that room didn't exist, she certainly spent a lot of time in the Cronin conference room as well as the Carol Blute conference room. And she worked collaboratively with many boards in the town and certainly was able to build consensus and set an excellent example for others to follow. So I can just say that she was a well-regarded person, and personally, I found her a great person to work with. And I think having a conference room named in her honor and recognizing her leadership as the first woman member and chair, I think would be a valuable addition to the town. I'm happy to answer any questions or elaborate on anything else.
Thank you, Mr. Neely. Ms. Dunphy, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
I just wanted to thank Rick for speaking about my mom, and it really means a lot to me. And thank you to the select board for considering this.
Very welcome. Questions or comments from the members? Mr. Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you both. Welcome back, Rick. As I sit here, in my 41st year with the town, it just took a long walk down memory lane. Just a couple of important points. People don't realize, I always talk about institutional knowledge, and people don't realize the difficulties that that the town faced even back then. But I want to touch upon the MWRA aspect of this, because in my new role, I often listen to Speaker Mariano talk about the importance of being a member of the MWRA and the gift that it is. I often hear of communities unlike us that are outside the MWRA net that really struggle with water issues. Randolph, Holbrook, and Braintree being like our neighbors that are not in it. I recently listened to him tell a story of how hard it was to bring the MWRA into the town of Weymouth some 15 years ago. And I've had the privilege in my life to visit Quabbin and those communities several times. And, we turn the faucet on and we just expect quality water. But I knew Kathy my whole professional career. She promoted me to the rank of lieutenant in 1991, I believe, 92, as you did. So I think this is a very fitting thing. We often forget about those who came before us and those who contributed so much to impact the quality of life as it exists today in the 21st century. So I thank you both for this. I'm sure that both Kathy and Dr. Dunphy would be very smiling, very proudly upon this. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for this. I'm sorry for being a little long-winded, but it's very rare that Mr. Neely returns back and he undersells himself in his contributions to all he has contributed to the town of Milton in his own life. So thank you for that, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. This is an occasion, I think, for giving credit where credit is due, and so your remarks are very well received. Mr. Wells. Oh, you're on mute.
I was lowering my hand. I want to make sure I did it.
No problem. Other comments or questions from the members? So I believe we can make a motion on this tonight. Is that right, Mr. Milano, or do we need to?
I think we'd want to possibly wait to hear from the fire chief because he wanted to weigh in a bit. So I think I don't know if it's best for us to maybe table it till the next meeting with some input from the fire chief in between, or if we would prefer to make the motion tonight.
I'm
Mr.
happy
Chair?
to. Yes, Mr. Wells.
I'm running out of meetings, so if it's okay, subject to any, I think I kind of know where the fire chief's at on this. I'd like to make this motion tonight for the community room within the old fire station headquarters to name this room in honor of the first woman member of the then Board of Selectmen and currently Select Board, after Catherine Dunphy.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? I think for my own part, Mr. Daly, I hear your concerns, and I also do want to hear from the chief about the sort of broader naming opportunities around both the old building as well as the new building. And I know that we've had some discussions about a plaque or some sort of a memory for firefighter Thomas in the new East Milton station as well. So I think we can certainly have a broader conversation with Chief Madden around that. As has been noted previously, I think this room will most likely be the home of many, if not all, of the elected boards on a regular basis moving forward. So for that reason, I think that it makes sense for it to be more of a townwide name than specifically fire related. But I think the point's well taken. Any other discussion? I know I asked for discussion and just made comments myself, but okay. We will have a roll call vote because we're remote on this. Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Ms. Hegarty?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
And Mr. Daly?
Yes.
And myself, yes. We're very, very happy to move forward with this. Thank you, Mr. Neely. Thank you, Ms. Dunphy. Thank you, Ms. Dunphy, for sharing your mom with the town, and we're very indebted to her and all of her work. Mr. Neely, same to you.
Thank you very much.
And we'll have a discussion later about how specifically to put a plaque up and make sure that everyone's invited to attend.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us.
Both.
Good night, Rick.
Thanks.
Great. We have for our fifth item of business a discussion update. Paul Hogan and Katie Conlon for Massport CAC representative, and Katie Conlon is chair of the Airplane Noise Advisory Committee. I see Katie. I do see Paul. I think he's Paul H. Ms. Conlon, Mr. Hogan, are you with us?
I'm here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're very welcome. Mr. Hogan, can you hear us okay? Well, we hope that, oh, there, you're off mute now.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine. If you'd like to turn your camera on, you're very welcome to do it. But if you don't want to, that's also totally fine.
I was trying to turn the, oh, there it is. Sorry. Coming on. I think.
It looks like maybe the camera isn't cooperating. That's all right. Why don't we move ahead? And if you manage to turn it on later, I think we know what you look like. So, oh,
Right.
maybe this is it. No. Well, all right. So let me just, I'll just say very quickly, we recently had a meeting, it was alluded to, I think, in a previous select board meeting with Mr. Hogan and Ms. Conlon around the committee and appointments. And so we've invited them here tonight to both share the latest from the airplane noise situation, as well as to talk about that committee. Mr. Milano, is there anything else that we wanted to cover in this session?
No, I think that works. And I think turn it over to them to provide an update, and then we can talk about some of the outreach opportunities that we're going to try to pursue moving forward.
Sounds good. Ms. Conlon, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And it's always hard to follow Rick Neely. So I'll do my best. And congratulations. I think you made a great choice in naming that room after Catherine Dunphy. Kathy was a great role model for me and others who followed her many years later onto the select board. So it's wonderful to see that room being named for Kathy. I want to thank the chair and the town administrator for meeting with, and our state legislative delegation for meeting with us, Paul Hogan, who's the CAC representative, and me in my role with the Airplane Noise Advisory Committee maybe a week or 10 days ago, to talk about maybe re-engaging on this issue and what our next steps might be as a town. As you know, the CAC position was vacant for about a year or a little over a year. So it's wonderful that you've appointed Paul Hogan to that role. I'm looking forward to working again with Paul. About 20 years ago, he was on the school committee when I was on the warrant committee. So we worked together back then, and delighted to be working with him again now. And we talked about some outreach efforts that the board might engage in. As you know, the airplane committee is an advisory committee to your board. And we have prepared some letters over recent years that the board has submitted, whether it was to the FAA or to Massport or to the state environmental office regarding the environmental reports that are done at Massport either every 2 or 5 years. And we talked about some follow-up that might be done. And one of them was to follow up with the Secretary of Environmental and Energy Affairs to follow up really on the 2024 letter that we submitted regarding one of the most recent environmental data reports. And we also talked about perhaps trying to schedule a meeting with the executive director of the Massport CAC with our new CAC rep and either the TA or a member of the board, maybe both. And we also talked about re-engaging with Representative Lynch as well as our 2 US senators, because their staffs have been involved in the issues over the years. And I don't think there's been much recent communication with them in the last couple of years, but it would be good to re-engage them. And that's really more of a role for the board in the town government than it is for the advisory committee. But we're happy to help in any way with that outreach that we can. So I think that's a synopsis. Senator Driscoll and our representatives were agreeable to trying to set up some meetings at the state level that we thought might be appropriate. And I think that's a synopsis of where we were at, and the board had invited us to come to this meeting as a follow-up.
Thank you, Ms. Conlon. Mr. Hogan, anything to add?
Yeah, Katie's really a wealth of information and has really shown a lot of dedication to this. I've listened to her very carefully, and the board, the committee that she's with has been dedicated to this. It really is kind of looks like an uphill struggle. I mean, obviously, we'll have to impress upon Massport somehow the importance of this. I've been briefed on the change in runways and how Milton is enduring a much heavier share of particularly arrivals, landings, and I can see them clearly from my perch at Pierce Street in East Milton. The double planes coming in all the time, and I think it's a question of equity, right? I mean, we talked about it at the meeting, and I was quite impressed with the delegation, and quite impressed with Senator Driscoll and his efforts in this, because we have to find a way to talk to Massport, talk to other communities to see if we can get an ear about this inequity, because it's causing some harm to Milton that I think ought to be addressed. And I know Mr. Wells was interested in me joining the board because I have a legal experience. I hope that we don't have to get to that level, but certainly I can follow the action, and if it becomes very inequitable for Milton, then there's things we can talk about. But anyway, I'm happy to be on the board, and enjoyed talking to Mr. Zoll at the meeting. And one of the things I just wanted to finish up with is that I would like to be able to go to these meetings with sort of a unified message from the town of Milton, the boards, the committees, and as many people as we can. I don't know how to do that, whether it's a resolution or a letter or whatever, but it's one of the things I think we can talk about, Katie, at the March 6th meeting when we meet again. But thank you very much, and thank you for electing me to the position.
Thank you. I have a couple of dogs barking in the background, so I apologize. Let me turn it to the members, and then I do want to add too. I believe at this meeting we can also appoint a member of our board to the CAC to serve as a select board representative, which we can do this evening. So let me turn it to the members first for questions or thoughts. Mr. Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think we can appoint someone. Am I mute? I'm not muted. I don't think we can appoint someone to the CAC. I think we can appoint them to the ANAC committee. Every community has one CAC rep, and I believe that is Mr. Hogan. Am I right, Katie, on that? That Paul is now our rep is on the CAC. Can we put a select board member to it as well?
I think Mr. Zoll just misspoke. I think he meant ANAC. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I agree. I think
I did. I'm sorry. The dogs distracted me.
That's okay. So my question, I have one question for Paul. At the CAC meetings, Paul, what is the normal, like, what do they talk about? What is their agenda?
I really don't know. I haven't been to a meeting yet. And I guess though that anything that impacts the communities around, would be subject to that. I know the MBTA has a similar advisory board, and then
Okay.
we just hearing about the MWRA advisory board. I mean, it's the interaction of the committee. I know that Boston has 5 members.
Yes.
And that they're relatively quiet about things. They don't put up much of a resistance. I heard that Watertown and Belmont are kind of active, and I have some connections to Watertown, so I'd like to find out what's going on there. But my goal will be to try to meet who's there and get on the agenda. I am familiar with the legal counsel from Massport. I've worked with her in the past. I think that I try to reach out, talk to her about coming aboard and that kind of thing. But clearly, it's going to be our mission to make this important to people at Massport and on the board. And, we're kind of, the other cities and towns around us, Randolph, Weymouth, Quincy, I think they prefer not to have planes go over their communities,
It's
so.
true. Yeah, you're right there. And just,
So-
Mr. Chair, if I may, just a second question for Katie. I know, Katie, that Karis was the lead on this with Murphy Hesse for as long, well, 9 years I can remember. Have you been able to successfully engage with and consult with KP Law on this issue? And I'm sure this is all brand new to them as well, because I don't think they've been involved in this at all at a community level prior to taking on Milton.
Mr. Chair, can I?
Please go ahead, Ms. Conlon. I know you may have wanted to respond to the first question too, because you had your hand up.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. My bad.
No problem, Mr. Wells.
That's okay. I have not had an opportunity to engage with town council yet, but that's something we'd certainly be open to and could discuss if you point me to the right person. Although I think probably the outreach meetings we're talking about might be more imminent than the town council. That might be able to wait a little bit longer. I think it might be more important to schedule some of the follow up with the federal legislative delegation and the state environmental office. And follow through with. I do think it would be a good idea for this to meet with this executive director of the CAC, with both our new CAC rep as well as some of the town officials. But on the first point about an appointment to the committee, that would be fine since there is a vacancy. But I thought we had been talking more of an informal liaison when we met a week or 10 days ago, and I think either would be positive. It may be that I know you serve on a lot of committees, and if you'd rather not appoint someone as an official member of the committee, you could certainly appoint someone as a liaison who could come to some of the meetings. I could be in touch with as the representative of the board, who could bring the information back to your board, and vice versa. So I defer to you on how you want to handle that, but I think either is an option. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hegarty.
Thanks. Thank you, Katie and Paul, for serving the town in this capacity. Just for my own edification, what are some of the positions that we've advocated for in the past in terms of RNAV? Or have we taken any specific positions with the FAA on where we would like the flights to be diverted to instead, or how has this worked in the past, and what has the response been from the federal government?
Yeah, the town has, and I can provide you some written information that will give some of the background on it. But in a nutshell, the most recent efforts over the last several years have been to try to persuade the FAA that they should test and then implement, assuming the testing is successful, of course, the alternative paths that the Massachusetts Institute of Technology had studied as part of the study that began about almost a decade ago, I think, that the FAA and Massport hired MIT to do this work for them. And they made recommendations on a number of runway changes affecting a lot of different communities. They did study and had put forward 3 ideas for flyable alternatives for the runway 4 right path. They did not really study the runway 4 left path. But none of that has been implemented. There's been unfortunately, MIT kind of took the position that, well, it would put traffic over other communities, and we really couldn't do that without community buy-in. And Milton's pushback has been, look, there was traffic over other communities for many years, and about a decade or so, more than that now, ago, a lot of that traffic was moved over Milton without any request or input from us and asking what our feedback would be. So, so that really has been one of the things the committee has been talking about a lot in the last few years, is trying to get the FAA to follow that through. And the last correspondence was in July of 2023, when the board sent a letter to the FAA asking about the status and advocating for the testing. And of course, the FAA referred this back to the CAC, which it's really an FAA problem that they created and they need to solve. So I think that's part of the follow-up that we need to continue.
And remind me, did MIT complete their analysis, or?
They did. They
They
made
did?
recommendations. Unfortunately, they studied this and they put forward these ideas. They didn't officially recommend them because
Okay.
of some of the ideas that there needed to be more community buy-in from the wider community, which of course is difficult to get. Nobody wants to volunteer to take
It's inherently
additional air
disappointing
traffic.
for everybody. Yeah, nobody wants to take on more than. Yeah, if you're currently not receiving a lot of overflights, then why would you volunteer for that?
Yeah, but again, those communities the communities that traffic would be put over under the MIT pass. They had traffic before, and they don't have the traffic that they used to have because a lot of that has been moved into the narrow paths that are over Milton.
Is there a means of managing or measuring equitable distribution of flights over towns? Like, is there monitoring of it or transparency or reporting of it?
Well, there's complaint data. There are monitors in some of the communities. There's that data could be provided by the FAA. And equitable justice, environmental justice was also an issue that was raised in the town's litigation, as well as regarding 4 left, which also brought in 4 right, because they really have to be considered together. They're so closely spaced that the impact of the town, especially the area that's under both flight paths, is really heavily impacted by both. So they need to be considered together, not just separately, which is how the FAA and MIT wanted to study them. Okay. So I think we could obtain information to that effect, probably from the FAA.
Okay.
That might be something I want to try to do.
Other questions from members? So I know we were going to think about having a draft letter for the select board to approve, but we don't have one quite yet. So I think we can take a motion on a drafting of that. And I also want to mention that I spoke with Mr. Driscoll earlier about being either a representative or a liaison. I think maybe starting as liaison, and if he feels like the work is something that he can dive into more, we could think about an official appointment. And Mr. Driscoll indicated that he'd be willing to do that. So just putting that out there for the members. Of course, anybody can nominate anyone. Mr. Wells.
I'll do both. If Mr. Driscoll's truly interest, I will gladly nominate him to sit on the ANAC as our representative to the ANAC. And secondary, as I said on our previous agenda item, time is running short here for me. I'd make a motion that to authorize the town administrator to start to draft a letter to, do we want to send this to Massport, right? We want to send this directly to Massport, and to copy both the federal and the state delegation on this as well on the letter. And I think he should probably maybe have conversation with Paul and especially Katie on exactly what we want to have included in that letter.
That's a bit of a motion.
I know it is. It was a broad motion. It was actually two motions. So sorry.
Maybe let's do the letter first, because I think we have some specific language. If anybody would like to make that motion, I would take that.
So I'll make that motion on the letter with the specific language you referred to, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and that is to authorize the town administrator and the select board chair to work with Ms. Conlon and Mr. Hogan on the drafting of a letter to be sent to the the U.S. delegation as well as Massport. So that is a motion made by Mr. Wells. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Ms. Hegarty. This will be a roll call vote. Any further discussion on this? Let's start with Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Ms. Hegarty?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
And Mr. Daly?
Yes.
And myself, yes. And then we can consider a second motion. I think that we were going to use the term liaison to ANAC.
I'll make that motion. I'll make that
Okay.
motion, Mr. Chair, to appoint Mr. Driscoll as the liaison to ANAC.
Mr. Driscoll, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
Okay, wonderful. So this will be a roll call vote. We'll start again with you, Mr. Wells.
I think you need a second. I didn't hear a second.
Oh, I do
Mr.
need a
Chair.
second.
I
You're
need
right.
a
Thank you.
second. Yeah.
Second.
Seconded by Ms.
Yes.
Haggerty.
I vote yes.
And Mr. Wells is a yes. Ms. Haggerty?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mr. Daly?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Okay, well, I think we have our next steps set out here. Ms. Conlon, Mr. Hogan, I just want to thank you both again for your service on this issue and for bringing this back up to the town's attention. I know this is an issue that plagues a lot of folks in Milton, and we're very grateful. And I would certainly turn it over to you, Ms. Conlon, for some final thoughts if you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to mention, we do have a couple of vacancies on the committee. So if there are residents who are interested in this issue and are interested in serving, it would be great if they would consider submitting a volunteer application to your office to be considered for the committee. And delighted to work with Mr. Driscoll. We look forward to that, and we'll be in touch. I'll provide some information to Mr. Driscoll so that he can have that before our next meeting, which is March 10th.
Thank you very much.
All.
Thank you very much. And just a second to Ms. Conlon's point, we always need volunteers for committees. And so this one is, I know, is close to a lot of folks. And if it affects you and you'd like to see some change, consider putting your name in the hat. Thank you again, Ms. Conlon, Mr. Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, board.
Thank you both.
You're very welcome. So I believe we're moving items 7 and 8 to a future agenda item. For some reason, our fabulous DPW head is busy with other things this evening. So we will let her do that work and move the items. Is that correct, Mr. Milano?
That is correct. Yep. Thank you.
All right. So let's move on then to item number 9, which is a discussion of the Labouré College closure. I'll turn this over to you, Mr. Milano. I think you've been in touch with the college.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So as members know, Labouré did announce that they'll be shutting down at the end of August and have been working hand in hand with Curry College through that transitionary period. I appreciate and just want to note that both President Jay Gonzalez from Curry and Willie Sue from Labouré reached out prior to the news coming out just to give me a heads up and extended my gratitude that they were clearly working well together, trying to find pathways for students and for teachers to remain and for students particularly to finish their coursework. There have been certainly conversations about what does that mean for the future of the Labouré campus. So we at least wanted to have this on the agenda just so members, if they had any questions or discussion points, could do so. Both President Jay Gonzalez did offer to come into a future meeting if the board felt that was helpful to discuss it with the board. So just wanted to flag it as a preliminary conversation in case there was any in particular direction the board wanted to take it.
Thank you, Mr. Milano. Any questions from the members or thoughts about the closing that they'd like to share? Mr. Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be, let me put my hand back down. So a couple of things. Obviously, I'm very grateful that I was aware of it, that I was made aware of this, but I think that people need to understand that 2 points. This is very sad that the Labouré campus is closing. I've been there several times, and it's the only 2-year RN program in the Commonwealth, not to mention the other programs that they offer in the medical field. It's really a special place. The second thing is the diversity of the population there. They offer an opportunity for people to achieve employment and achieve certification and achieve an RN status that no one else does. To add to that, this is a big win for President Gonzalez and Curry. This is going to take a lot of work, both between the two parties, the state level. I think there's probably some possibility here for the community, but I really want to thank President Gonzalez for taking this over and establishing the Library Nursing Center on his campus. This will become the largest nursing program in the Commonwealth once this is done, and it will truly help to, I know I'm belaboring a little bit, to solidify the future of the college as a campus. Even though you're losing one, it'd be awful. As you know, Mr. Chair, you're in the higher ed business. The threats to smaller colleges in this country today is just huge. And I know that his predecessor, longtime President Quigley, had worries about this as many as 10 years ago about declining populations. So this was really a win-win and a credit to the leadership of both of them, both Dr. Shi and President Gonzalez in doing this. And I really thank them both for putting their heads together, because this is a futuristic move, not just for the region, but especially for our community. And I know that was a long-winded, but this is going to happen sooner than later, and we probably won't get a chance to talk about it again. So very grateful to both of them for this.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Other comments or questions from members? So I may just add my quick 2 cents as well. Mr. Wells definitely hit the nail on the head in terms of the crisis that a lot of small colleges are facing. I think the Library News hits even harder because of another crisis that we have in this country, which is our healthcare workforce, which is declining and really needs to be shored up, so that Curry College is able to ensure that we continue to have RNs graduating and able to work in our fabulous hospitals and medical centers around the Commonwealth is really fantastic. The second comment I want to make is just kind of an overall comment on the campus itself. And Mr. Milano, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but as we're at the visioning or the early stages yet of our work with MSBA in terms of thinking about a location for new school, this building would fall under the purview of discussion as to whether or not it would be suitable. I'm not the person to decide whether or not it would be suitable. We have a whole committee for that, but I think for those who've expressed an idea of whether or not this could be leveraged to help the town save a little money, we don't know, but we can look at it. As we know, with the Discovery Schoolhouse building, it's older buildings aren't necessarily that much cheaper to refurbish as newer buildings are to be built. So I think that is TBD, but I just wanted to mention that for the community's sake, so that they're aware of it. And then, barring any further questions or comments from the members, I think we can move along to our next item, which is I'm going to declare a quick recess for the Select Board and call to order a meeting of the trustees of the Governor Stoughton Trust. Instead of going into executive session, though, I believe the last time we met in executive session, there was a consensus among the board to have a discussion in open session around the town farm property and how we're thinking about the situation moving forward. And Mr. Milano, I know there's an update that you were going to share, that you'd shared with us previously, that I think you'd like to share publicly to help inform the discussion.
Good, thank you. So I'll just touch on 2 pieces. The first one being the trust has discussed as working through potential through the RFP process and looking at a potential lease with the developer, had made some asks around mitigation for Governor Stoughton Lane. As we know, that's a narrow road that serves some single family homes now and could potentially serve significantly more if the project were to move forward. The proposal that was submitted was that the applicant or the proposer would fund design of improvements to the road but would be unable to fund implementing those design improvements, and instead would work with the town to secure or try to secure grant funding. Otherwise, those improvements would have to be borne by the town. So the trust did have a conversation about requesting mitigation related to Governor Stoughton Lane specifically. And the offer that's then been brought forward has been to fund engineering and design work on improvements to Governor Stoughton Lane, but not to fund the improvements themselves, but to work with the town to try to secure grant funding to do so. That's part one. And then the other element of an update I just did want to provide is that the 40B, that's 648, 652 Canton Ave, did apply to funding from the South Shore Home Consortium for funding to add to its sources and uses for their potential projects. And included in that is a proposal to shift a little bit of the project. So that's a 116 unit project. They are looking at converting it to more of a low income housing tax credit project, whereby 60 of the 116 units would be much more deeply affordable, with 49 units at or below 60% of the area median income. So that would be units at 30%, 50%, 60% of area median income, and the balance of the units on the project would be the traditional 40B. That's 25% affordable at 80% of area median income. So that was another piece of information I just wanted to share, that we expect that change to happen. That hasn't been announced officially or submitted formally. So certainly subject to change, but it is something that project appears to be looking at an alternative pathway. So those, I think, Mr. Chair, the two pieces that you're looking for me to share, but happy to add anything else if you or the members are looking for it.
Thank you, Mr. Milano. Let me turn it to the members for questions or thoughts or comments.
I'll ask Ms. Milan. So is that, hopefully I'm not breaking up right here. So is that saying that the developer for Town Farm is ready to move forward if we are able to partner on the grant funding, or is the update from them that they're still working out their own financing piece?
So where that sits is we did request mitigation related to the road, and that specific mitigation was to make that change. So otherwise it would be a 35 unit project as proposed, with funding sources TBD, but the rest of the project would be as proposed. In addition to what was proposed in the RFP, there would be design and engineering costs borne by the applicant for improvements to the road.
Other questions or comments from the members? Well, you guys are making me do all the talking tonight, which I will try not to do too much of. It's my opinion that if the Canton Ave 40B turns into something that is much more significantly scaled, both in terms of more availability at different levels of AMI, as well as meeting some of the requirements that we have as a town for affordable housing, that we may want to. I don't want to say not. I still believe that that affordable housing is probably the most on target application for that land, based on the will of Governor Stoughton, whose trust we are now meeting underneath. So it's my thinking that we may want to either we could defer on the current RFP. We could put a new RFP together for something that is slightly less dense, that would maybe alleviate some of the problems that the engineering of the road would be required to fix. Or we can stay as is and continue our negotiations. I think those are decisions that are up to the board. And I'm not going to, obviously I can't unilaterally make those decisions. So that's really a subject of conversation that we have to have here. And we can make a motion and vote, or we can postpone and wait until to see how the Canton Ave 40B turns out. and then make a decision, or make no decision at all. So those are the choices before us, and I put it back to the members for their thoughts. Ms. Hegarty.
So for me, the biggest opportunity in town farm would be to get the town closer to safe harbor so that we can get out of the situation that we're in, where we keep having 40Bs imposed on us due to our own lack of creation of affordable housing. I think that if that safe harbor can be achieved through other ends, then I don't necessarily see the need to move forward with town farm. And also, given the difficulty with making a project work at the site and the infrastructure necessary, you know, I think it makes a lot of sense to at the very least hold off and see how the Canton Ave project plays out.
Do we have a timeline on when we would know if the Canton Ave project is getting that approval to go deeply affordable?
Mr. Milani, you want to answer that? And then Mr. Wells has his hand up.
There have continued to be some abutter appeals in court, as well as the Conservation Commission contemplating further appeals on that project, which would delay, any kind of final resolution of that project. And then I would expect in the coming weeks, that project, it emerges more officially as to what the game plan will be for that project. So I think in the near term, we should see a more official indication of this pathway or not as kind of step one. And then step two being, well, it's still going to be subject to the ongoing appeals and other matters that the project faces as things stand today. So those two elements are still kind of in progress. So one is a shorter term duration and one would be a longer term timeline. And then if I could, just to Ms. Haggerty's point regarding safe harbor and the 40B, thresholds of, so 10% of affordable housing. So 10% of the town's housing units, according to the census, need to be on the subsidizing housing inventory. If all the projects as currently proposed and permitted are built, the town should and will surpass that 10% threshold. The question really then becomes, well, what happens with the 2030 census? Which is when, after the completion of the 2030 census, and really this takes 2 years after 2030 for the state to adopt revised year-round housing unit figures, that becomes our new baseline. So right now it's about 9,800 housing units in Milton is what serves that we have to get 10% of to surpass, to be, protected from any further 40B type projects. So while we can try to forecast that out, it's really hard to say what that new year-round housing unit number will be coming out of that census and by the time. So we're probably 6 years away from getting a new target number for what we have today for the 2020 year-round housing unit number. If everything is built that's been permitted, then we will hit that. A little bit harder to foresee once the numbers are revised again in 5 or 6 years' time.
So all
Mr. Wells. Oh, sorry.
Give me 1 second, Richard. So all that's permitted, which does not include.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Winston. Go ahead.
It gets us to that correct SHI number, but the changes at Canton Ave gets us to that deeply affordable, which was the discussion we were having about town farm.
Correct. On the SHI, the 116 units proposed at 648, 652 Canton Ave all go on the subsidized housing inventory. We're going to get credit for all of them because of how they treat rental projects. So even though some of them will be market rate, we're going to get credit for all 116. I think, to your point, the policy outcome of we're not going to just have units at 80% of AMI, but we'll have, a much more diverse, deeper, affordable units rather than otherwise. So that would be the case where we would not see an increase in terms of number of units on the SHI. It would just be the kind of composition of the units that are on that are different.
And then after that, it gives us about until the next census, plus maybe 2 or 3 years before our number may change.
Correct. And obviously we can do some work to try to figure out how many single family housing units have been added, and we can add in the multifamily units. So we would then be back below 10%. But the question of how many units below 10% will we be is kind of the harder variable to come out with a more certain outcome, just because we're relying on a census number, not necessarily our own.
So a bit of a question then becomes, if we choose not to move forward with town farm, even if it's not RFP, not even a rethinking, leaving the town farm space would technically give us a space where if we needed to change or catch up in our SHI number, a space to build potentially.
Right, yeah, because if those 35 units that we're talking about here were built, we would add those again onto the SHI. So that would serve as an opportunity in the future for potential housing if that were to be the future decision.
Go ahead, Richard.
Mr. Wells.
You sure?
He muted himself, so I guess so.
No, I did. I was okay. Most important, put my hand down. All right, so a couple of points. I'm not going to comment on the town farm thing. So I do believe, and you can tell me I'm wrong, Nick. We are in safe harbor for another year, correct?
No. So sorry. There's two kind of different considerations for safe harbor. Safe harbor is if you hit certain new housing targets on an annual basis. That's 45, 40, 50. We are not in safe harbor right now. A 40B could come in tomorrow, and we will not achieve that until we get a new housing production plan, or we get to the 10% figure.
Okay. So you and I have talked about this. So the thing that's important to me about 648, 652 is the lowering of the SHI, because I talk often about poverty and about who's going to have the ability to get into these units. And when you lower the SHI, that's when you really impact those who can't get there. The second thing is, to Mr. Daly's point, at least, I don't want to be public, but I know of at least one, if not two more potential projects that are on the horizon right now. Not big ones, but similar 30, 35 units. So I think by the time we get to 2030, not only will we be, if 648, 652 comes to reality, not only will we'll be above our 10%, that will give us a little bit of a cushion to keep us above 10% when we get to 2030. So that's it. Not long-winded, short, sweet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Other thoughts or questions from the members? Mr. Milano, it looked like you were about to add something.
Nope. Sorry, I was just putting a pen.
Okay, no worries.
Add one thing, Nick.
Mr. Daly.
Can you share with us any materials we have about our history with the SHI, including potential units? I don't think we've gotten a sort of a dispatch on that recently.
Yes, I can provide what we use. The official SHI is available, and I'll distribute that. It's a bit of a challenge because all these projects are in construction. Sometimes they get added on, and then after 12 months, if don't have a certificate of occupancy, they come off, and then they can't go back on until they're complete. So it's not necessarily an accurate picture of what is official. So I'll distribute the SHI as the latest inventory as the state sees it, and some additional context as to what why some projects are on there and some aren't. Ultimately, what matters is at the end of the day, projects go on permanently once they receive a certificate of occupancy. The first two projects that have been well underway in terms of that group of 40Bs that came in together, 936 Brush Hill Road is actively marketing units, including having their affordable housing lottery. That should start having units moving in before the end of this fiscal year. And then 711 Randolph Ave is marching towards completion this summer and fall as well. So those two projects should be added to the SHI more permanently. And then also those affordable housing units will be showing up and over the next 6 to 9 months.
So I think maybe to put a cap on this discussion for the moment, I think that the struggles that we have had as a select board in terms of thinking about the project were not so much about whether to have affordable housing on that lot or not, but really about the financial cost of putting housing there and how it would impact the immediate surrounding community, which we wanted to be mindful of. We felt like if we could make enough infrastructure improvements there, that it would fit nicely in that space. But I don't see the money right now for that kind of an investment. And I think my fellow members were kind of the same mindset. So I think it might be nice to hear from the Affordable Housing Trust on this as well, because I think Mr. Daly raised an interesting possibility, which is that we kind of have a bit of a buffer there that we might want to be able to use in 2032 or whenever we receive our new guidelines. But I'm also mindful of the fact that we have some historic property on that, or historic buildings on that property, which are not in the best state of repair, which is probably something else that we need to have a think about. So it might make sense to hear both from the Affordable Housing Trust as well as I don't know who we would bring on, the Historical Commission, I guess, Mr. Milano. So perhaps we can have a follow-up conversation with those two bodies in the next month or so to have a sense of where we might want to turn. Does that sound right to the members? Mr. Daly?
I will report that out to the AHT in our next meeting. I think there's also, if we do go back out, this is just an if, some consideration for us if we need to include the work on the road as a part of the RFP and what that project may look like. So maybe a complete rethinking of our RFP if we are back out in a year or two, if we don't move forward in this capacity.
All right. Is that we have a consensus to close this item for now? Mr. Wells?
So just a heads up, Mr. Chair, since we're on this, 440 Granite Avenue is selling pre-construction, and it's out there now. I know they're not all affordable, but just to give only because a couple of people have come to me and I said it's called the Granite at 440.com. People should go there and look. And the developer there is selling pre-construction already, and they are moving right along. And while there are only, I'm not sure how many affordable units in that, but they should take a look at that website, and if they're thinking of it. And that's the 440 Granite Ave condos on Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. With all that, I will take a motion to adjourn our meeting of the Governor Stoughton trustees.
Chair, you have some minutes to approve.
Oh, sorry, we have some minutes to approve. Thank you, Mr. Milano. I will take a motion to approve some minutes.
I think I'll abstain, Mr. Chair. I do not think I was at those meetings.
Yes, you were not there. Yes, that's correct. Although I think you were there on the December 16th meeting. Am I reading that correctly? Lynn, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe Mr. Wells will do the meeting that you.
I'll make a motion on the December 16th meetings to approve them.
Great.
Second.
Hey, motion's been made and seconded. This is a roll call vote. We're remote. Mr. Wells?
Yes, sorry, Mr.
No worries. Ms. Hegarty?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mr. Daly?
Yes.
And myself, yes. With Mr. Wells abstaining, I'll take a motion from someone else on the other minutes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the trustees of the Governor Stoughton Trust meetings on December 9th, 2025, January 13th, 2026, and January 27th, 2026.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. This is, again, a roll call vote. Mr. Wells?
He's abstaining.
I know. He has to say that.
I abstain.
Thank you. Mr. Daly?
Yes.
Ms. Hegarty?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Sorry, everybody just shuffled around on my Zoom screen, so I lost my order. Okay, now I believe I can request a motion to adjourn the Governor Stoughton trustees.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chair, to adjourn from the meeting of the Governor Stoughton trustees.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Wells?
Dan, yes.
Mr. Daly,
Yes.
Ms. Hegarty,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, we are reconvened as the Milton Select Board. We have committee reports. Item number 10, Select Board Finance Committee and Milton Budget Coordination Committee.
So I'll report out on those combined. The work continues to close the gap on FY27. If Mr. Milano wants to provide any updates on recent developments that we've had on health insurance, I'll let him jump in after I'm done. But at the budget coordination meeting that we recently had, we've been discussing next steps following the closeout of FY27. We've requested that the school committee and warrant committee work with Mr. Milano to model out the impacts if we change certain growth factors for the Milton Public Schools over the next 5 years, so that we can have a fuller picture both on the town side and the school side of what adjustments will likely result in terms of service delivery outcomes for both the town and the school. So we're trying to get a more tightly knit understanding of the town's financial forecast and the school's financial forecast. And then for the Select Board Finance Committee, we recently learned about some health insurance savings from Mr. Milano and discussed possible uses on the town side for savings in terms of assistance to the building department and upgrades to the zoning code. And that's my very brief update on those two items, but a lot of work continues to happen with the Budget Coordination Committee and the Select Board Finance Committee. So I don't know if Mr. Milano or Mr. Daly have anything to add to that.
Nothing to add for me. We were unable to have our budget coordination meeting this week due to the weather. So there's been a little bit more conversation there, but we look forward to continuing to speak with the warrant committee and the school committee. I believe the warrant committee sent out an email discussing their proposals for the FY27 budget. We'll wait for a response as well as further communication on that as well.
Mr. Milano, do you have anything to add?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, as Ms. Haggerty alluded, we have had a couple of tweaks in terms of where things stand. So I will just do this quickly through 2 slides so people know what I'm talking about. Pardon me. All right, so just to recap where things had stood, as we were looking at about a $1,049,000 deficit at the end of our last meeting, and we had talked about or requesting that the school committee make that reduction to balance the budget. What has changed since then is we have had additional information come in regarding our health insurance renewal. We had been tracking a 10% premium increase for the town share of the budget as well as the employees. The good news is that fiscal 26, our current year through January, continues to track much more steady than our prior year was. Our prior year utilization, so our claim expense exceeded the premium revenue by 20% last year, which resulted in a significant drawdown of our health trust, which is where claims are paid out of. When we set the premium, we need to account for both, the rising cost of medical expenses, but also what our actual claims history has been. If claims rise significantly, even when costs might be flat, we're going to experience withdrawal from our trust. So the 2 factors when we're looking at a premium increase are both our experience, which in 25 was worse than it had been in recent years, and the trend in medical costs, which, as everybody knows, continues to grow each year. All that said, costs have stabilized in this year through January. We feel comfortable that we should in the year with a little bit of a withdrawal from the trust, but not anything on par with last year. So things have steadied, which means we feel comfortable with a reduction in what we had anticipated for a premium increase of 10% to 8%. So that's, modest savings for employees, modest savings for the town budget, but for the town budget, that means about $255,000 in reduction in expenses that can be used to go back into balancing the fiscal 27 budget. One thing I do want to note is that the town's insurance coverage will no longer include the GLP-1s for weight loss beginning on July 1. That change is something the insurers are doing and are implementing. Other cities and towns are going through that same change. That cost alone is about 5% of our claims each year. It's a very significant cost on an annual basis. They will still be covered for diabetes. That's one distinction. The other change that we did make, a more negative change, is that we have upped our forecast for the supplemental plans that the town offers to retirees that are on Medicare. We offer supplemental plans, MedX, Managed Blue for seniors. We have increased our expected cost for those to 15% from 10%. Those are set on a calendar year basis, so we're 6 months away, five months really away from setting those premiums for the next year. But we need to set that now. Our premiums for calendar year 26 range from 5% to 13.5%. So the savings would have been greater, but we felt it was important to make that change. The bottom line is that there's $255,000 in expenses that we can take out of this budget that were previously in health insurance that can be used to reduce that deficit further. So a couple decisions need to be made about what to do with that, primarily being, should we just put that to use to resolve and lower the burden that we've asked of the school department in balancing that deficit. And the other element I would like to just chat about was the proposed use of free cash in the fiscal 27 budget. We have $4.5 million in certified free cash. We have already appropriated $60,000 out of it. I've flagged here what we've been continuing to track as our proposed usage of free cash, some of which we've discussed pretty extensively. But so as in the next agenda item will show, the capital budget was set at using $1.216 million of free cash. In accordance with our financial policies, we need to contribute at least right now $675,000 to the general stabilization fund. So we've used that. We have payments to town employees for collective bargaining agreements that would be in this year's budget that we are not necessarily on track to reaching settlements on. So a significant sum of money would go unspent in this year's budget. So we would propose to set that aside in free cash, since right now we don't expect to need that in this budget. So we'll have significant savings in FY26. We've discussed, and the conversation continues regarding $500,000 for school reserves. We've discussed putting $1 million of free cash into the operating budget stabilization fund, and then the last chunk is in accordance with the financial policies, just to again have a decent reserve there in case of in a dire need, that we would leave about $450,000 not appropriated. At the end of the day, that leaves about $85,000 in free cash not yet spoken for in terms of my proposals here. So as you know, so a couple of the points about what should we do with these savings. There is some money. So with that $85,000, I've flagged a couple of options. Mr. Daly mentioned the planning board's request for zoning bylaw recodification, additional hours for the building department inspectors, or putting it into stabilization fund, setting it aside for the snow and ice deficit as potential options. My thought would be that we do the first two on this list. The planning board requested $40,000 for the zoning bylaw recodification. I think $35,000 will be an ample start. And then the purpose for the request around building department hours is that we have part-time inspectors who work hourly to do work. As we were just talking about with the growth that's happening in town with the multifamily housing, those put a significant burden on their ability to then get out and do, the regular single family additions and renovations and new construction. So my thought is that by setting aside some free cash, because this could be a temporary need, and not necessarily a permanent need, that might be a way to give that office some additional bandwidth over fiscal 27. We will then use that time to evaluate whether those positions and additional hours are necessary again for fiscal 28 on a temporary basis, or whether those should be made permanent. So in my view, is it's not necessarily recurring expense, because sitting here today, we may not need to keep those additional hours and that additional funding. I would view it as a sufficient use of free cash. And then the other purpose is that building departments brought in a lot of revenue the last several years, so they have been a contributor to that free cash calculation in recent years. So that's really where the budget sits. Is the first question is, we have savings on health insurance, which is good news. How are we applying that? And then in terms of the game plan for that last remaining use of free cash, those are two thoughts there. Happy to take any questions or feedbacks and opinions as to where it sits. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Milano. Questions from the members? Mr. Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Nick, the savings, those 255, are you looking to reduce the school's $1 million plus by another 255? Is that the bottom line in this, or no?
I think that would be the path of least resistance here in terms of trying to get this budget over the finish line. As we had expenses that were going to be higher that now are lesser, and the one way to resolve that is to make the ask of the school committee less in fiscal 27 and wrap the fiscal 27 budget up. So bottom line is yes. Sorry, that's a long-winded answer just to say yes.
You're allowed to have them every once in a while, Mr. Milano.
So my concern there is that, and I appreciate, I really do, the work that Ms. Agony and Ms. Daly have taken on this. The bulk of this is going to the school side again, where on the town side, absent what you just described in the inspectional services of the building department, the majority of the town departments which we have been sent, which were sent away for the last couple of years, and like, and I hate to say it, to be blunt, like, don't bother us, you get nothing. We're on the same boat again. And you could tell me if I'm wrong.
I would agree. I think the school department is identifying positions to reduce. The town departments aren't in that position, so that's the only one element here. I think that's a factor for where I sit. But happy to think about ways to carve out maybe some of that and put it to use on some town departments. But that would just be the distinction between where, for this year, where the budgets sit anyway.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Chair. I just
Go
was
ahead,
responding.
Mr. Wells.
I just, we've, and I was just saying, like, when using a stick to beat the department heads on the town side, like we've been telling them for multiple years, no, go away, go away, go away. And no disrespect to my colleagues on the school side, they've come continually year after year, give us more, give us more, give us more. And here we are once again, fending off the town departments. I mean, just look where we are right now. We're not even, these two storms have put such a beating on the town equipment on the DPW side. Like, their life expectancy just got like shaved by I don't even know how many years, but that's the type of pressure. And I'm not even talking police, fire, library, all those other things. And here, once again, in your presentation, they're not even mentioned it. They're like an afterthought. And you're trying to scramble, both you, Mr. Daly, and Ms. Haley, trying to scramble to do everything you can to take every single dollar that you can find and shift it to the school side. And it's just not a recipe for success in the long term. And I know you've heard me say this before, but I can't sit here quietly tonight and not say this.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Mr. Daly?
Can I just add something to Richard's? Richard, I take your point, and it's been a discussion in all of our meetings about, especially the towns side. How do we account for the asks that are coming from the town? I think right now, and it's nothing is final, so your comments are well regarded. I think right now, in what Nick is saying is that there's no particular, or we haven't targeted something that the funds would go to specifically on the town side. I think we'd have to go a little further in and think about it, but we were thinking about the schools and the positions are thinking about cutting, but there are some other mechanisms that we're also still discussing about movement, the special education fund, as well as the continued conversation about the school circuit breaker. So I think this is just one option for the particular savings and how we'd be moving forward. But it's really an effort to get 27 done. But your comments are not unheard, and they are a big part of our discussion in the 3 to 5 year plan we're trying to lay out in the spaces where the town does get the asks that they've been pushed aside for the last 3 to 5 years, at least some of them.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Other comments from the members? I think I would just add my own to Mr. Daly's and to Mr. Wells. I share Mr. Wells's frustration as well as Mr. Daly's feeling that there are ways for us to try to resolve this. I'm not sure that it feels like every year, at least my 3 years on the select board, we're cobbling together last minute, anywhere from $1 to however many $1 million for the schools, and we continue to see. I think Mr. Wells's comments are spot on. In terms of this recent storm, the expenses on the town side are not going down either, and I won't project my own opinion on what the school committee does. The school committee is going to do what they're going to do. I think if the school committee feels like they could that the schools could survive with a reduced staff, then that is the choice that the school committee is making. I think if the school committee decides that they want to put money aside and reduce staff, then that is a decision that the school committee is making. I don't think it's the select board's job to tell the school committee how to do its business, because it is their business ultimately. I don't know now, Mr. Milano, if we want to commit those funds to the budget, the 255. I'm just not quite sure. I don't know. I don't know how folks feel about that. Are we being asked to commit them now, or is it more just it's a state of play?
That latter. I think it's this. We had expected to spend this on health insurance. I was actually pessimistic that the 10% would not be sufficient. So we're happy to be in a position, and I don't want to act as if an 8% increase on health insurance costs for employees is nothing. It's still significant, so it's not like we're saving anybody hundreds of dollars here. So it's a good little cost avoidance, but I didn't expect it available. I am more than happy to come back to this board with some thoughts on how to use that, put that money to use, where maybe it's shared a little bit. I would just note that we're getting to the point where time is of the essence. So perhaps that means we should add a select board meeting if that's something the board members want to hear about in terms of how I would see some potential uses of that funding. I'm happy to engage in that, and I appreciate everybody's comments.
Ms. Hegarty.
I think it's always tricky to, conceive of these solutions when it's just dollars. I think for me, it's always helpful to understand the programmatic impact of the dollars. So to understand, what $250,000 of funding means to the schools versus $250,000 on the town side. It's tricky because the town departments came in at level service at 3%, So we haven't really heard what they would use this for. But I do think that, the on the school side, the funds will have a direct impact in the classroom. So I think that's my long way of saying I agree that we should have Mr. Milano present to us at our next meeting on what some options are.
Thank you, Ms. Hegarty. Mr. Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I didn't want, and so I'm thinking broader here. And Mr. Milano knows when I mention this, he's going to know where I'm going. So in 2021, the select board voted to take I may be off on the amount, $160,000 out of free cash to fund body cameras for the police department. That came, the committee that I sit on, Capital, that came to us from him. We voted unanimously to support it, went to town meeting, was included in the budget and funded. And that 160,000, and it may be 162, and Nick, you can correct me on that. The caveat to that from the chief, and I don't like to get into police things here because I try to let Chief King be his thing, but I am the chair of Capital, was that he would need a person to handle the IT aspect of it. We live in a video world today where people always ask. They were going to need a position to go with that. So now we're going into 2027, and that emergency funding that we funded in 21, it was funded in FY22, it was actually voted at the 21 annual town meeting, sits there. And I sit here and I see Nick and I have talked, I see no end in sight for this. And this is just one of the multitude of little things on the town side that we just kind of push away. They never get brought to the forefront. And to Mr. Daly and Miss Haggerty, this because you don't even know about this. I'm sitting here tonight and I'm like, this is never going to end. It's like a dog chasing its tail. And I don't mean this in a negative way again towards the schools. There are town needs that we have to address that address the operational, not just the operational success of our departments, but the quality of life for both the people who work in this town and the people who live in this town. And this is just like one more thing that it becomes, I don't even know how to word, I don't even have a good word for it. Never ends, but just never ending. So we are the select board of the town. We have to advocate and protect all the aspects that make the town of Milton such a great place, including all of our operational departments. And I know that was not, but again, and Nick knows this, we talked about this at Capitol just 3 weeks ago, like 2021, we voted this. And here we are going to 2027. And that free cash money, which was appropriated and funded in a town meeting, just sits there.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Mr. Driscoll.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sure you've all seen the roads, and there's been no hot mix put on any of these potholes that other city and towns have been doing. Our roads are really deteriorating, and I'm all for education. And when I was on the warrant committee, it just you can never give them enough. They always have to come back for more and more and more. And the word out in the street that I'm hearing from people, they've had it. They've had it. We have to take care of our infrastructure and start building our other departments up. And I'm all for education. My wife is a retired school teacher. My daughter's a school teacher, and I'm all for it. But we have to start building our other departments up and give them some more support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Driscoll. Mr. Daly?
Yes. I would believe that we would have another select board finance committee meeting before our next joint meeting. I would hope that at that meeting we have an update from the schools as to their final decisions. And I think that is really the piece that we are trying to connect before we make this decision on whether it's the 255 or from our last meeting, the discussion on the codification as well as the money going to the building department. I think those decisions were made with town resources in mind. So I'm just trying to reassure our members, Driscoll and Wells, that we do share exactly what you both are saying, and none of this is final. This is about us trying to figure this out with the schools, and also that projection for 3 to 5 years from now. All of these positions as well as needs will be part of what informs that. We want to be able to say, when can we get the tech position for the police? What are the resources that DPW is asking for? And having a cohesive plan that takes into account all of these asks and the possibility of us filling them and when. So all of this is part of the discussions we're having at the joint committee.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Any other thoughts from the members? I might add my own. I do think, Mr. Milano, that this is, you've got a bit of a mandate here to maybe think about. I might come up with some scenarios where we split it in half because the budgets are roughly split in half. So if you split the 255 in half and half of it went to the town and half of it went to the school, what would that mean for the town? It's not a ton of money. And then you could also come up with a scenario where the entire 255 went to the town. I think we know what the 255 going to school looks like, so we don't have to envision what that is. But I think that those two scenarios would probably be pretty interesting for us, as Member Hegarty said, to kind of really understand what is that, what are those dollars do, and what specifically are they funding in town. Mr. Wells.
Mr. Chair, if you want, I'll make that motion to split the 255 in half right now.
Well, I think we would. I mean, I'm happy to.
I know you didn't expect that, and you don't have to.
I'm happy to entertain that motion, and we will, because you've made it. I think we would. You know, I just wonder if you would want to defer until we see what the impact of the 255 is on the town, or we can make that motion now and then understand what the impacts are with Mr. Milano. We could still then sort of figure out how to designate the whatever it is, 125 or 120 and change. I also, Mr. Wells would need a second on that motion.
I don't want to put Mr. Daly and Ms. Hegarty in a headlock there, but
no, I mean, I'm thinking about it.
The only reason I'm not going to second is because I don't think we need to make a final concrete decision yet until we get to these final numbers, right? I don't want to say we have to be at 50%. You know, there's a chance that maybe we decide that all of it goes to the town, or a smaller percentage after we pull all these numbers together. Because I also want to see the school's response to the warrant committee's chair's letter that was sent out yesterday. And I think all of that changes the total amount of money we have to allocate for the rest of the budget.
Well, I'll do it, Mr. Chair. I'll tell you what, out of respect to my colleagues, not to put them in a tough spot, I'll withdraw the motion for now, but symbolically, I think you know where I'm going with that, and I think you are as well.
I think many of us are, Mr. Wells, and I appreciate that. Appreciate the flexibility for our finance committee to continue to do some good work here. I think that we've set some pretty clear instructions here. Mr. Milano, in terms of just overall timing, I think our next meeting is March 10. How does that how does that work in terms of the overall scope of things?
You know, I think it would take. I would suggest that we try to carve out a meeting a week before that, just to try to get this buttoned up ASAP, and maybe it won't be on March 3rd, but then it should definitely be that by the 10th. I just don't want to be in a position on the 10th or now we're kicking another week. So if members are available, we could try to do a placeholder for a week from this evening with a more limited agenda.
I unfortunately have a standing commitment on the first Tuesdays of the month. But I wonder, if this is a one item discussion, could we do even like a noon meeting virtually?
Don't see why not. I can pull members for availability for next week, early part of next week.
Any objections to that on the part of the members? Okay, wonderful. Let's do that, Mr. Milano.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I guess, did we get to the capital budget? We did not.
No, and Mr. Chair, just
the capital improvement, we kind of spiraled on 10A there.
So I provided the materials regarding what the Capital Improvement Planning Committee's recommendations are. They did wrap their work last week. I provided materials as to what the recommendations that the committee made. I'm happy to go through them in greater detail or respond to questions. I do just want to make one observation just based on Mr. Driscoll's comments, is that both that CIPC Chair Wells's prodding, as well as DPW Director Marina Fernandez's, this year's capital budget includes a recommended increase of the paving money. We've been doing $1 million in borrowing and paving. We have increased that to $1.5 million as part of our recommendation for the capital budget in fiscal 27, which would be, that's a more than 50% increase. Not saying that that's something we can always maintain, but something we're able to do this year. And in addition to that, there have been, to give the state legislators and others there have been additional resources that have been pushed to local to cities and towns for additional Chapter 90 money, additional millionaires tax surcharge money that has been being pushed to roads. But locally, this year's capital budget does include an increase of $1.5 million. The balance of the CIPC recommendations are, facilities projects, replacement of equipment, and the like. Happy to take any specific questions, or if you want a more detailed presentation, happy to go through that.
Up to the members, Ms. Hegarty.
So, in terms of the additional Chapter 90 money, due to the bonding against the fair share, so what does that translate into in terms of like number of roadways or equipment or other eligible Chapter 90 items that the town is thinking of? Like, how is this expanding our capital program?
So we do just use Chapter 90, minimal engineering services. It's largely put back into the roads. We don't buy equipment with it. Typically, I can't remember when Milton last bought equipment with it. We had been getting about $600,000 a year with the adjustment. It's another $300,000 that's been coming. We're lucky to be in part of the Sursage Regional Consortium, so we get good pricing on pavement work. So, we're able. It's a multiplier. It's taken a 50% multiplier on the work that we're able to do, and obviously we have to line that up with our water capital and other projects in terms of those like pavement reclamation and mill and overlay projects that you'll see. But we're doing, I don't want to. I can let Marina speak to a more specific, but it's
you
about
don't know
a 50%
how many
increase.
Additional streets that $300,000 is.
I can't speak to what that means for our next round of paving, depending on the treatments and everything else that they've been trying, microsurfacing and other aspects. But like for example, we had about $300,000 available last year, and we did a section of Elliott and a couple streets in that area last year as part of some of the additional funding.
Thank you, Mr. Wells, and then it'll be Mr. Driscoll after that. Mr. Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To Ms. Haggerty's question, my answer is very blunt, very simple. 2 words, not enough. I've been on the Capitol for 9 years. It's one of the things, as Mr. Milano heard in our final meeting, it's one of the things I've really taken a special pride in, because there's so many people who bring so much and work so hard on this. Each year the challenges in everything from paving to sidewalk to new trees to equipment, all the infrastructure of the community, the school buildings, that just puts inordinate pressure on a committee that, for most of my operational life, was just a paper exercise. We didn't really put in. I really have to give a shout out to Amy Dexter, who has been the person behind the scenes for all the years I've been there, and even before she was there when I got there, working this. So I hear and listen, Megan knows this world inside and out. Well, it's not enough. It was $1 million a year when I started 9 years ago, and I just felt in my final year, this had to be the year where we had to bump that number up, because I already know where Mr. Driscoll's going to go with this. And when you have winters where you get 30, 40 inches of snow on our streets, that only just creates such and it just degrades our roadways that much more. So I don't think, to her, just final, I don't think Marina knew we were going to do this, so she really didn't have the ability to give us a detailed plan as to what she was going to do with the additional $500,000. But the feeling of the committee was this was the year that we had to do it. So I'm sure they will come up with it, and I'm sure they will have the need is not going away. So I know that was long again. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Mr. Driscoll.
Nick and Mrs. Haggy must know, just 4 intersections, just doing the handicap ramps could eat that $500,000 up in today's world. So I do applaud the $500,000 more dollars. But like I said, we're way behind doing the roads, and her plan is to do the pipes underneath. These roads that have to be done now, we can't wait to do the pipes underneath. I know it could be 10 years off, because a lot of these roads are awful. They're just awful. Like Amore Road around the casting, for 2 months, they had a cone around the casting. There was 2 big potholes there on Amore Road. And it's just it's not acceptable. And on Milton Street, there's a trench. I went to the DPW about it 3 weeks ago, and I finally talked to Nick, and it's still a foot drop when you go over it. And it's just the cars that you damage. The stuff has to get fixed, and we just have to start paying more attention to all this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Driscoll. Any other thoughts or questions from the members on the capital budget? Okay. Then moving forward, I think I guess, Mr. Milano, item 13 is where we are now, fiscal year 26 year-to-date budget for snow and ice. We get any of that?
It's worse than it was last week. So entering at the end of last week, or at the end of the last vendor warrant that we processed, we were tracking at about $1 million deficit for snow and ice, obviously largely due to that one big event, but the timing of the events throughout the season have been against our benefit, where they've been a lot of weekend storms and Sunday work where we're not doing the work as part of our regular duties. So we'll provide a more fulsome update at our next meeting as we start to unwind some of the bills from this storm, but expect a significant increase just related to this most recent storm. Last year's snow and ice budget was about $800,000. So we've surpassed that already this year. And a lot of the work that we'll do in terms of trying to pause other spending will be to try to eat some of that within our existing operating budget as much as possible. So I've already started to identify places where we know budgets will be underspent. And I've said this at prior meetings, but I'll just say it again, is that this will translate to a lower than normal lower free cash than we've been used to the last couple of years, as those, turn back some departments just won't materialize, because we'll need to transfer that within this budget. So, there could be potential state, federal funding assistance, especially of a storm of this nature. Maybe not necessarily Milton, but we always hold out hope that's possible. But in the meantime, it's something that we're looking to control our costs in other departments, and keep an eye on this moving forward. And hopefully spring will pop up very soon.
Thank you. Any questions from the members on the snow and ice budget? Okay. Or do we need any motions on well, all right. Then we're going to item 15, I guess, the annual town meeting warrant.
Item 14, Mr. Chair, that is.
That's, I was going to say, I did miss that. So item 14 is appropriation for the operating budget stabilization fund for fiscal year 27 of an amount not greater than $717,000 at $717,500.
And just for the members, so this is going to be a new annual ask, as this operating budget stabilization fund was set up with $700,000 through the tax levy, through the override. However, whether or not to continue that annually is a select board decision. The select board is allowed to increase it by up to 2.5%. Select board's allowed to lower it to some other lower number, and then after which they can only increase it by 2.5%, or just eliminate the appropriation altogether. Now, obviously, my recommendation is to a motion to increase it by 2.5% to that figure, but that is the ask. It's the requirement. It's a required step that we'll be facing each year to continue to fund that operating budget stabilization fund through the tax levy. So this is a portion that will go on the tax levy.
Mr. Wells.
Just to repeat, did you just say, Mr. Milano, that was your motion to increase it by 2.5%? Is that what you said?
My recommendation that you do that.
I'll make that as a motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, the motion's been made by Mr. Wells.
Thank you.
Seconded by Mr. Daly. Do the members wish to discuss this any further or move to a vote? I guess we'll move to a vote. Mr. Wells, you have your hand up, so I'll let you make the first vote.
Absolutely.
Ms. Hegarty.
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mr. Daly.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you. So now we'll move on to the town warrant. Mr. Milano.
Yes.
I know we have some removals.
Yes. Larry Laffer, chair of the local historic district study committee, notified us earlier today that they'd be withdrawing their proposed bylaw amendment for a local historic district, and intend to reset for October. And know there's some additional work that needs to happen on that bylaw, so that will remove one bylaw from the warrant. I'm sorry, one article from the warrant. Again, that's the proposal to establish a local historic district in Milton Village. Otherwise, no updates on the warrant at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Milano. Any questions from the members? Okay, let's move on. Item 16, I think we're skipping that. The road diet. No update. No update. And then item 17, the board and committee appointments master plan committee. We have 7 names before us, of which we were going to select 2. I believe we've shared the applications from the members, from these folks to the broader group. And then I want to emphasize again, and Mr. Wells, just give me one moment, I'll get to you. That we appoint 3 members, including one of which is Member Hegarty. The other warrant committee and planning board. No, sorry, school committee and planning board, right?
Planning board and warrant committee.
Planning board and warrant. It is planning board and warrant committee. Okay.
Planning board and town moderator.
Board.
Sorry.
And town moderator.
Sorry.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So, all right, we were all wrong. They will also appoint, I'm not sure if they've gotten any applications in either. This is a general pool of applicants for all 3 groups. So just not being appointed here tonight doesn't mean that you're out of the running, as it were. It's just heat 1 of our MPIC Olympics. I guess I'm 2 days late for that joke.
Wow.
Member Hegarty, did you have a nomination or a question?
So I don't know if I've ever participated in the committee appointments when there have been this many this many applicants. What is the process that we typically go by? Do members just like nominate somebody from a list and then
Yep. And if you want to say a few words about why you're nominating them or
Sure.
anything
Okay.
anything else, you're welcome to do that.
So the first individual on the list who I would like to nominate is Mindy Darbeloff, who lives on Norway Road. She's been a long time resident of Milton, raised her family here, and she was the deputy chief of staff for Governor Baker. She has an incredible amount of experience in the hospitality industry and is an incredible project manager, which is why I think she would be an excellent addition to the Master Plan Implementation Committee.
Okay. Do we have a second on that before I get to you, Mr. Wells?
That's my hands up.
Okay.
So I second and concur 100% with Ms. Haggerty.
Great. So that's one nomination. I think let's take them as a pair. Is there a second nomination?
I have a nomination,
Mr.
Chair.
Wells.
So I would like to nominate Mr. Burke, who I actually met, really came to know him through Cheryl Tagayas, who chaired the initial MPIC. I think part of moving from the prior MPIC to this one is institutional knowledge. Mr. Burke brings an immense background, beginning with the BRA in the city of Boston, his background in municipal financing, and I can't tell you how important he has been as the MPEC rep to the Neponset Landing and Waterfront Committee and all of the obstacles that we faced from the time we started. Dick knows he's a long-term, you may not always agree with him, but he just has a wealth of information and understanding. And one of the things I think that to remember Haggerty's point about the expertise of Mindy Darbeloff is that we also want to cross over some of the institutional knowledge that Mr. Burke would bring to this. And that's my nomination for the committee at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Is there a second for Mr. Burke?
Second.
Mr. Driscoll is seconded. Is there anyone else that wants to nominate someone?
I do have another nomination.
Okay, so we'll consider them all one at a time then in a vote. Please go ahead, Mr. Daly.
Question for me is if there's a third nomination, we're only nominating two.
We're nominating two.
We're just going to go by order and vote, and then.
Yes, I think what we'll do is we'll take your nomination, and then I'll ask for votes on each of the nominees.
I think this goes to the tournament. Okay. My nomination is going to be for Rob Lavash. My main point with that being is Mr. Lavash is currently a Parks Commissioner, and I know that he is working on a town-wide master plan, mostly around our field space and recreation space. But I think it's a good idea to have that town-wide sort of plan in mind. I don't think if he's to have both plans sort of intersecting and that conversation happening from multiple levels of town government, I think Mr. Lavash would be a real resource to be able to bring sort of all of this together. I think in Milton, we've done a lot of things ad hoc without committees speaking to each other, and a lot of things die in committee. And I think there's an opportunity for Mr. Lavash to represent sort of two different sides of looking at the town plan.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Do we have a second for Mr. Lavash's nomination?
I second.
Seconded by Ms. Haggerty. Do we have any further nominations? Well, Nick, you can step in if I'm doing this wrong, but I think that we should be voting on the three, and then whoever the two highest vote getters would be our two nominees. Does anybody see a problem with that process? I guess we have to vote, but it's a vote to appoint, though.
I think you could go around and ask each member for their two votes.
For their two votes? Okay, let's do that.
We can tally it from there.
All right, so I will go to each member, ask you of Ms. Darbeloff, Mr. Burke, and Mr. Lavash to name two. And then at the end, we will, the two highest vote getters will receive our thanks and service on the committee. The third will still be active member of the pool and under consideration by either the moderator or the planning board. Mr. Wells, why don't we start with you?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I vote for Ms. Dabeloff and Mr. Burke.
Thank you. Mr. Driscoll?
Ms. Daberoff and Mr. Burke.
Thank you. Ms. Hegarty?
I'm gonna go with Ms. Darbeloff and Mr. Levash.
Thank you. Mr. Daly?
Darbeloff and Lavash for me.
Well, you guys made my position difficult. I'm gonna recommend Darbeloff and Burke for the committee. I have a strong suspicion that Mr. Lavash will end up on the board, and I hope that he does. And I agree with Mr. Wells's nomination of Mr. Burke in terms of his wealth of experience, which is not to say that I don't appreciate very much my good friend Mr. Lavash. So I hope he forgives me for that vote. Thank you, everyone, for that. Moving forward, we have discussion approval request to reserve the Town Green and Barren Hugo gazebo. Does anyone feel like reading some motions?
Move to approve the request to reserve the Town Green and Barren Hugo gazebo for the following events: a summer concert series on June 3rd, 10th, 17th, and 24th. Kids concert June 4th, rain date, July 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd, 29th, August 5th, 12th, 19th, rain date from 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. And the Caribbean Carnival on Saturday, June 20th, 2026 from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. I guess I'm a little foggy on which date, what's the second rain date? I guess the 19th of August is the second rain date. Am I reading that right? Okay. And the Caribbean Carnival was fabulous last year. So we've got motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, this is a roll call vote as we're remote. We'll start with Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes, if the snow melts.
It's optimistic. Ms. Hegarty?
Yes.
Mr. Daly?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Finally, let's see, not finally. We have some one-day liquor license approvals. Mr. Daly, would you like to reprise your role as our motion reader?
I don't see them. If someone else has them, go ahead. I'm just looking for the motions. I don't have them.
You can go home then.
I have them pulled up, so I'll just go ahead and break protocol and read them. I'll make a motion to approve a one-day liquor license application for the Catholic parishes of the Blue Hills St. Pius X, 101 Wolcott Road, Trivia 9th, March 7th, 2026, from 6:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. This is actually, I'll go through some other ones too.
Okay.
I'll also make a motion to approve a one-day liquor license application for the Milton Arts Center, 334 Edge Hill Road, for First Friday, March Art Exhibit at Music, March 6, 2026, 6 to 9 p.m. Milton Arts Center fundraiser, March 14th, 2026, 7 to 10 p.m. First Friday, May Members Art Exhibit at Music, May 1, 2026, 6 to 9 p.m. And First Friday, June Pride Month Poetry and Music, June 5th, 2026, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote again. Mr. Wells, you're off mute. Would you like to vote?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Ms. Hegarty?
Yes.
Mr. Daly?
Yes.
And myself, yes. All right. I managed to lose my agenda. Here it is. Town Administrator's Report. Mr. Milano, tell us you've got good news for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No. No, not that I don't. I'm sorry. Well, I guess I don't. So I'll leave.
Don't pull your punches, Nick.
I'll lead with what is frustrating news for some. So trash collection was canceled both Monday and Tuesday. The hauler will be unable and is unwilling to make a second collection required for Monday pickup. So anybody with a Monday pickup will need to hold until Monday, March 2nd. We're apologies for that, but just with the 2 days of cancellations, they're going to be in town making up for Tuesday through Friday, and then we'll be back on Monday for a regular week. So Wednesday collection, which is tomorrow, will be for people who have a Tuesday trash recycling day, and then so on for the rest of the week. We're aware that folks might have more trash than usual, so additional stickers will not be required. Next Monday, the trash will just be picked up as long as it's out in bags and on carts. So apologies for the delay. We're still working with the hauler to claw back some costs related to that. They just don't have the manpower and trucks to pick up the Monday trash. So with the 2-day delay, that set them back. So we've communicated that through the app, social media, through the town website. We'll ping folks again in the morning and then send out a reminder each day, just so folks don't forget to put out your trash 1 day late. And then secondly, we've already talked about it a bit, so just thanks to all the crews that have been working. It's strange to say we were fortunate, but I think in the grand scheme of things, Milton was fortunate to be on the north end of what happened to be a very, very significant storm. So a lot of heavy snow. Crews were out there starting Sunday night. They will be back this evening. They're mobilizing to do hauling away from school areas tonight. So school areas will be cleaned up. Sidewalk plows are already out and hit all the sidewalk routes. And then they'll be back again tomorrow night to do more hauling in the business district. So business districts probably won't look as good as some of the schools until after tomorrow night's work. So thanks again for all the man hours and woman hours that have gone into the last now 2 significant storms this winter. And we'll get through it, and schools will be open tomorrow. Sorry about the trash delays, and just take it slow. Some of the side streets, with this much snow, they are narrower. Some of the side streets we haven't been able to necessarily get down a blacktop, so it might be slower. With school back, trash and recycling back, we just ask folks to take it nice and slow tomorrow morning, and a little bit of a coating to an inch of snow for the morning isn't what we needed, but it won't be too impactful, especially if everybody's taking it nice and easy. So those are my 2 updates for this evening, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Milano. Mr. Driscoll, did you have a question for Mr. Milano?
Yes. Nick, I don't understand why they added to have no trash today. The roads are passable. Those trucks are big enough, and they have the arms. You know what I mean? I just don't understand. And then they're saying they're not going to honor that day they're missing. They couldn't do that in the city of Boston. They'd get thrown out. You know what I mean?
No,
The city
that
of
was
Boston
really
would not let them do that, Nick.
the second day was more on us when
The other night when I'm out plowing, Nick, in Boston, Star Rubbish was doing their commercial in the height of that snowstorm.
No, and I live in Boston. I have a Monday collection. Mine was picked up today. So they did their Tuesday. We made the call yesterday afternoon just because we were not certain what condition we would be in. So we made a more kind of a cautionary pull on us to just say, sit tight for Tuesday. We want to spend the day just trying to get the roads clear and not have you guys to work around too. So that was more on our end than their end, and then that now trickles down to the Monday aspect. But a combination of both parties in terms of that decision making.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Driscoll. So moving ahead to the chair's report, I do have a couple of things to mention. I just want to add my thanks. I think the thanks of all of the board to the DPW and everyone who's been out there shoveling, plowing, making the town safe after what was a historic storm. What could have been a worse storm, as Mr. Milano said, but still no small shakes. I also want to encourage residents, if you have a fire hydrant on your street, to think about shoveling out the fire hydrant We have had a house fire recently where the fire hydrant hadn't been shoveled out, and that does delay the response time for the crews. So if your back can handle it, my back barely passed muster, but I was able to get the fire hydrant in front of my house cleared out. I would just recommend that everyone do that for your safety, for your neighbor's safety. Um, I want to let folks know also that Friday at the high school is going to be the Milton Theater performance. This is the championship team from last year, so they'll be performing at the high school. It's a 45-minute play, and I think there are some other monologues that are featured. It's not quite as long as the musical, and it's definitely not as musical as a musical, but it's still good theater, and I would encourage folks to turn out. And then finally, I want to acknowledge we had a select board meeting yesterday to add a spot on the ballot for the school committee seat of Amanda Serio, or the chair of the school committee, who has significant other commitments and is going to be stepping aside for her final year. I just want to extend my thanks to her for her service to the town. It's not an easy job. I know myself, I think we all know on this board, being on a committee or a board can be a lot of work, particularly the school committee. And we're very grateful to Ms. Serio for her past service to the town. I'm also grateful for her for stepping down in a way that will allow us to avoid having a special election and just add an extra seat to the school committee ballot. So just wanted to acknowledge and thank Ms. Serio for her service. We're going to go now to members' reports. So this is anyone who has anything that they wanted to bring up to the town's attention or to our attention, or just give a shout out to someone in town. Please go ahead and raise your hand if you have something you'd like to add. This is not a requirement, just a opportunity. All right, well, it is after 9 p.m. Thank you, everyone. So we're gonna, following that, do we have, oh, sorry, Mr. Wells.
We doing a future, we're gonna do future, I don't have it in front of me. We're doing
Yes,
future agenda items?
so I was
Okay.
gonna say, we don't have a public
Alright.
comment response, but we have future meeting schedule and then future agenda items. So the future meeting schedule is March 10 and March 24 of 2026. And Mr. Milano is gonna send out a poll to the members for a hopeful noontime single item select
I'm
board
fine with that, I'm fine with that.
meeting. So then now we'll move on to future agenda items, Mr. Wells.
So I have one. So, Nick, if you could just put Linda Lee Sheridan on for the next agenda. This is as you know, we are in the 250th anniversary of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. In June we will be hosting I think the 15th. It is the 15th Milton Music Festival, and she'd like to come and speak to that. So if we could put her on the agenda, I'd be grateful for that. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Definitely. Ms. Hegarty.
This may be more of a question, but when does the DPW director present on the upcoming paving schedule and just like overall asset condition of the town's roadways?
Mr. Milano.
Not been scheduled. It's not happened. In several years. Happy to coordinate
Okay.
that. And she did offer, if you'll recall, she wanted to come in and talk all things paving.
So we should get it on the books.
Okay.
I don't know if like during the deep snow and ice season is the best time, but maybe late March or the first week of April. I mean, everyone starts opening up construction season around April 15th. But it would be nice, there's a lot of commentary in our meetings and, in the general public in town, I see things on Facebook and whatnot. But it would be good in my conversations with Marina, she's very knowledgeable about asset management and strategies on pavement preservation, and what has to happen townwide. So I think that our our board and the town in general could really hear from her as to what level of investment is needed, and how the upcoming paving season gets us closer to that goal.
No, we can coordinate that, and having new town engineer Darwin Ceballos has been adding to the capacity in that office significantly. And it would be good to have him be introduced to the board as well, and just to provide a more global update on the capital projects that they're working on as department, with a specific focus on the roadway stuff. So I will coordinate with her and schedule it accordingly.
Thanks.
Thank you. I actually have 2 items too. Number one, I think we have a new animal control officer for the town. I think it would be nice to have him come in and meet the members at some point. Again, not probably a terribly urgent thing, and he's still learning the ropes. But that might be a good April or May meeting topic. Second, and this is a more immediate one, and I know Mr. Wells will appreciate this. The parking of the post office vehicles in front of the Milton Arts Center remains a constant thorn in the side of the town, and I think interfered with our ability to respond to the storm. I know that we've gotten very few places with our current conversations. So I'd like Mr. Milano, for a future agenda item, maybe for March 10th, if you could draft a letter to our congressional delegation for that, which I believe would be Congressman Lynch and then our 2 senators, Markey and Warren, to have them, ask them for their assistance in finding a solution to what is just an ongoing nuisance in an important part of town. And Mr. Wells, you have your hand up.
I agree 100%. As I noted in my email yesterday, and as you know, Nick, I've talked to you about this many times. The Milton Arts Center is our tenant. It's a property that we own. It's a vital part of this community. They have complained to us on multiple times where the 14 spaces that this select board voted to approve, public parking spaces on Edge Hill Road between Bryan Ave and the church at the top of the hill, they've commandeered and taken over. I went there again tonight. There were 8 trucks sitting there. They've been sitting there all weekend, buried in the snow. These trucks don't move. And it's just not right. We hold our citizens accountable, and the pressure for parking in East Milton is so crucial every single day. For them to be so arrogant to this community, even to the point that when the Mill Police went to tag them, they took the position, you cannot tag us with federal vehicles. Mr. Milano, Mr. Chair, we don't always go this way, but they are absolutely standing, almost mirroring the image of the Trump administration in DC today in our square in East Milton. And this cannot be tolerated. It's not fair to the residents. It's not fair. It's not from a public safety point of view. I didn't mean to be this articulate, I don't know if articulate, outspoken about this tonight, but it's so wrong. They've been doing this for so long. And for Joan and Kevin and all the people of the Milton Arts Center, who are our tenants, who are doing so much to try and bring something special to East Milton, or to that section of Milton, to all of Milton, it's so wrong. And I've never seen such arrogance in my life as what they are portraying. There were 8 trucks parked there tonight, and between the spaces they took, and I don't even know how Marine and the DPW personnel would plow out the few remaining spaces that exist. It's just so wrong. And I'm sorry, I know I advocated a lot there, Mr. Chair, but it is.
That's all right, Mr. Wells.
This
Perhaps
is really. This is almost like, why don't you just spit in our face and tell us to go away? Shame on them. Shame on the Postal Service for doing this to our community.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Maybe, Mr. Milano, you can draw a little bit from Mr. Wells's comments to inform your letter, although I don't know about spitting. But I agree with him in principle.
Might do it tomorrow. I'm going to see the manager tomorrow. It might happen tomorrow, Mr.
Oh, don't get yourself in any trouble, Mr. Wells. I know we are going to, any final items for future agendas? Mr. Milano, I believe we're deferring on our 2 executive session topics. So
Yes,
I
thank you.
will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
All right, this is a roll call vote. We'll start with you, Mr. Wells.
Mr. Daly should be more excited. Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Ms. Haggerty,
yes.
Mr. Daly,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe, stay warm, and shovel out his fire hydrant if you can. Have a good night.
Bye.